Congratulations! You've just slain the bandit chief, who was terrorizing the good people of Whiterun Hold. The last marauder lies at your feet, his lifeblood staining the dusty ground a deep, ugly crimson. The air is thick with the coppery tang of it. There are no cheers, no grateful villagers rushing out to thank you. There's just silence, the wind, and the flies that are already starting to gather. So, what's your first heroic act as a savior? You get on your knees. You feel the rough, greasy texture of the dead man's leather jerkin as you pat him down. Your fingers, already sticky, dip into his pockets. And there it is, your prize, the spoils of victory, 7 septums and a half-eaten apple. The coins feel gritty and unsubstantial in your palm, barely enough to buy a loaf of stale bread and a flagon of watery ale back in town. You fought, you bled, and you risked a very permanent and messy end for the kind of pocket change you'd find in a modern-day couch cushion. Welcome to the job. You see, you've misunderstood the title Dragonborn. It doesn't mean hero or savior. It means you are, for all intents and purposes, Skyrim's most celebrated gig worker, a freelance problem solver with a very specific and very violent skill set. The Jarl doesn't see a figure of destiny when you walk into his great hall, still stinking of tomb dust and dried blood. He sees a convenient, low-cost solution to an inconvenient bandit infestation that his own guards are too lazy or too scared to handle. He'll sit on his throne, swirling his expensive wine, and tell you about some dire threat with a look of profound boredom. He needs a proactive self-starter who can work independently and isn't afraid of a high-risk environment. Your resume? It's the trail of bodies you left on your way here. Your payment? A handsome reward that, after you've repaired your armor and restocked your supplies, leaves you with just enough to not starve for another 3 days. There are no benefits, no dental plan, and definitely no paid time off. This isn't a partnership. You are a tool, a disposable asset. When you stand before these lords and merchants, they aren't looking at you with awe. They're looking at you with the same detached calculus a man uses to look at a shovel before he starts digging a ditch. They don't care about your fears, your exhaustion, or the screams that echo in your head at night. They care about results. Clear the cave, kill the monster, find the shiny object, and if you don't come back, too bad. There's no HR department to file a complaint with. They'll just wait for the next chosen one to wander into town, broke and desperate enough to take the same terrible deal. But surely it's not all bad. You have a gift, a power that sets you apart from every other poor soul freezing in this wasteland. A power that can level armies and shake the very mountains. The Thu'um, the voice. Surely that makes this thankless, soul-crushing job worthwhile, right? You think that power makes the miserable pay worth it? Let's talk about your gift. You take a deep breath, feeling the air fill your lungs, feeling the ancient, crackling energy gather in your chest. You open your mouth and a word of power erupts, a sonic battering ram that sends your enemies tumbling like discarded toys. Fus ro da. Epic, right? What they don't show you is the immediate aftermath. The first thing you taste is blood. It's a hot, coppery tang that coats your tongue. Your throat feels like you've gargled with broken glass and sand. For the next hour, you won't be speaking. You'll be croaking, a raw, wet whisper that hurts with every syllable. That's because the Thu'um isn't just speaking loudly. It's weaponizing your own anatomy, forcing a hurricane through a garden hose. Every full-throated shout is an act of violent self-harm, and it's not just your throat. The concussive force doesn't just travel outwards. It rattles you from the inside out. Your teeth ache in their sockets. Your skull feels like a gong that's just been struck by a giant's club, a dull, throbbing pressure behind your eyes that blossoms into a blinding migraine. Your joints scream in protest from the sympathetic vibration. You've just given yourself a full-body concussion to win a fight. Congratulations. But the physical pain is only half the nightmare. The real horror is its lack of a safety switch. This power is a part of you now, tangled up in your biology. Which brings us to a lovely afternoon in the Whiterun marketplace. The air is filled with the scent of spices and baked bread. You're browsing for potions when you feel that familiar, unwelcome tickle in your nose. It's a sneeze, a perfectly normal human reflex. Except you're not entirely human anymore. Panic sets in, cold, sharp, and immediate. You try to stifle it, to pinch your nose, to turn your head and muffle it in your arm. Too late. It's not a polite achoo, it's a choked, compressed fuss that rips out of you with the force of a small explosion. The stall in front of you doesn't just rattle, it disintegrates. Cabbages, potatoes, and a week's worth of a farmer's hard work are launched across the square. Everyone freezes. The guards' hands drop to their sword hilts. The children start crying. And you're left standing there, red-faced, with a trickle of dust falling from the awning above, trying to mime an apology with a throat that's once again on fire. You are a walking, talking, breathing liability. Forget getting into a heated debate in a tavern. Forget laughing too hard at a bard's joke. Forget a simple cough. Every involuntary vocalization is a roll of the dice with disastrous consequences. This power doesn't make you respected. It makes you feared. People give you a wide berth not out of reverence, but because they don't want to be accidentally thrown through a wall. It is the ultimate form of social isolation. But hey, you'll have to get used to being a public menace, because you're about to take this unreliable, self-destructing body into places far more intimate and unpleasant than a crowded town square. Wait until you see the 5-star accommodations the Draugr have been preparing for you. Forget the epic montages of striding purposefully across majestic landscapes. The journey to your next heroic destination begins with a single, soul-sucking sound. The schlorp of your boot being pulled from a foot of near-frozen mud. This is your life now. Endless, grinding travel through a land that actively resents your existence. There's no Gore-Tex in Tamriel. Your leather armor, once sturdy, is now just a heavy, waterlogged sponge that sags on your shoulders. A permanent, clammy chill has settled deep into your bones, a constant companion that no campfire can fully banish. Your clothes haven't been dry in a week, and they carry the rich, pungent aroma of mildew, sweat, and despair. And then you arrive, standing before the entrance to some forgotten Nordic tomb. The treasure map didn't mention the smell. It hits you first, a physical presence that pushes against your face. It's not just the smell of dust. It's the smell of 1,000 years of stagnant air, of stone weeping with perpetual damp, of rot so profound it has become part of the very geology. It's a complex, gag-inducing bouquet of dried-out corpses, petrified rat droppings, and something else. Something wet and vaguely fungal. You take your first step inside, and the darkness swallows the light behind you with a greedy finality. The air is so thick, so heavy with particulate matter, you can feel it coating the inside of your mouth. You're not just breathing it, you're eating it. The floor is not your friend. It's a slick, treacherous mosaic of loose flagstones, and what you pray is just condensation. But it's not. It's a viscous film of grime, moss, and the accumulated filth of centuries. Every step is a gamble, a test of balance on a surface that feels like it's been deliberately greased. And then there are the sounds, the constant nerve-shredding drip, drip, drip from an unseen ceiling. The faint, grating scrape of stone on stone from somewhere deep in the oppressive dark. And worst of all, the skittering. A dry, rustling sound that is everywhere and nowhere at once. It's in the walls, under the floor, just at the edge of your torchlight. You never see what makes it, but you know it's there, watching. You run a hand along the wall for balance, and your fingers come away coated in a cold, gritty slime. You're not an adventurer. You're a spelunker in a septic tank. This isn't a noble quest. It's pest control in a cursed mausoleum. You press on, deeper into the suffocating black, your sword held out in front of you, your nerves frayed to the breaking point. The silence between the drips and skitters is somehow worse, a heavy blanket of dread. And that's when you hear it. A new sound, a low groan, a heavy, dragging footstep. A shape shambles out of the darkness, its eyes burning with a cold blue light. A draugr. Its armor is rusted, its flesh is leathery and desiccated, and its ancient axe looks like it was recently used to shovel out a latrine. It raises its weapon, and as you lift your shield, you have a split second to appreciate the caked-on layers of filth and dried gore covering the blade. This isn't just a fight for your life, it's a fight against a walking biohazard. But if you think the idea of getting hit with that tetanus on a stick is bad, just wait until you see what passes for medical treatment in this world when it actually connects. The draugr's axe slices through your guard with the grating screech of rusted metal on steel. You feel a sudden, shocking cold in your thigh, immediately followed by a searing, white-hot explosion of pain. It's not a clean cut, it's a tear, a brutal, jagged wound left by a weapon that hasn't been sharpened since the Merethic era. The pain is so intense it steals your breath, a nauseating wave that makes your vision swim. You look down and see the wound. It's ugly, it's deep, and it's already weeping a thin, dark fluid onto your leg. Somehow, you win the fight. You stand panting, leaning on your sword, the adrenaline fading to reveal the full, throbbing symphony of agony from your leg. The immediate problem isn't the pain or the blood loss. It's the source of the injury. That axe was caked in 1,000 years of grave dirt, corpse rot, and who knows what else. You haven't just been wounded. You've been injected with a concentrated dose of ancient bacteria. You can practically feel the infection beginning to bubble under your skin. Sepsis isn't a risk, it's a near certainty. So, you do what you've learned to do. You reach into your satchel, your hand shaking, and pull out a healing potion. Forget the pristine, glowing vials from the stories. This one is a lumpy, vaguely glowing liquid in a cracked leather flask. It smells like sour milk and pond scum. The recipe called for a giant's toe, a butterfly wing, and some salt piles. You don't have time to consider the horrifying biological implications of drinking liquefied, necrotic flesh. You just unstopper the flask and chug. The taste is indescribable. It's a vile chemical burn mixed with the flavor of rot and something vaguely sweet. It coats your throat, and for a terrifying second, you're certain you've just poisoned yourself. Then, the magic happens. It's not a gentle, warm glow. It's a violent, unnatural knitting of flesh. You feel your muscles twitching and spasming, your skin crawling as it aggressively pulls itself back together. The pain from the wound is replaced by a deep, itching, burning sensation, like 1,000 fire ants marching under your skin. The wound closes, but it's not clean. It leaves behind a puckered, discolored, and horribly raised scar, another angry entry in the roadmap of misery that covers your body. Your body is no longer your own. It's a canvas of poorly healed trauma. Your left shoulder clicks with every swing of your sword from where a bandit's mace dislocated it. Your ribs ache with every cold morning, a permanent reminder of the troll that used you as a chew toy. You have a persistent ringing in your right ear from a fire spell that exploded too close. You're not a hero in their prime. You're a collection of chronic injuries, held together by sheer stubbornness and alchemical sludge. You are in a constant state of low-grade pain, an ever-present, dull ache that serves as the background music to your life. The potions don't truly heal. They just patch the holes long enough for you to get broken again. You are a pincushion, repeatedly stabbed, burned, frozen, and bludgeoned, only to be crudely stitched back together so you can run headfirst into the next meat grinder. And speaking of meat grinders, all this charming bodily harm is just from dealing with common thugs and the Walking Dead. You haven't even gotten to the main event yet. You haven't faced the flying, fire-breathing nightmare that this whole destiny is supposed to be about. the thing that will make these scars feel like fond memories. It starts with a shadow, a fleeting darkness that blots out the sun for a half-second too long. Then comes the sound. It's not a roar, not yet. It's a noise like the world tearing itself in half. A deep, guttural rumble that you feel in your bones before you hear it with your ears. The ground shudders, and there it is. Scaling down from the sky, a creature of myth and terror made flesh and scale and fury. Your first thought isn't destiny. It's a primal, gut-wrenching, childlike scream of no that gets stuck in your throat. Forget a noble duel. This is not a fight. It's a natural disaster that wants you dead, personally. The air crackles, and you smell ozone just before the world turns into a wall of incandescent flame. You dive. You scramble, feeling the searing heat lick at your back, smelling your own hair singe. The heat is so intense it cooks the air in your lungs. You come up gasping, your face raw. The dragon lands, and the impact is a localized earthquake that throws you off your feet. You are an ant. It is a god of destruction. Every instinct in your body is screaming at you to run, to burrow into the earth and hide. But you can't. You're the hero. So you charge. You swing your sword, a pathetic toothpick against a mountain of living armor. The clang of your blade on its scales is a joke. It doesn't even notice. It turns its head, its eye a swirling orb of ancient malice the size of your shield, and it sees you. And then its tail whips around, a blur of motion too fast to track. You raise your shield, but it's like trying to stop a falling tree. The impact isn't a blow, it's a demolition. You feel your ribs splinter, a sickening crunch that echoes inside your chest. Pain, absolute and blinding, whites out your vision. Somehow, through sheer dumb luck, you find a weak spot. A gap in the scales, a lucky thrust while it's busy torching a forest. Your blade sinks in. There's a shriek that shatters the air, a gurgling, volcanic sound, and the colossal beast collapses. The ground-shaking thud of its death is the loudest silence you have ever heard. But it's not over. It's never over. The adrenaline drains away, leaving you in a cold, shaking heap. The victory doesn't feel like glory. It feels like you just survived a plane crash. The ringing in your ears won't stop. The world feels tilted, unreal. And that night, the real battle begins. You jolt awake in a cold sweat, the phantom smell of burning pines in your nostrils, the echo of that roar still shaking your bones. You see that eye, that ancient reptilian hatred, every time you close yours. The world is no longer safe. Every shadow that passes overhead sends a jolt of pure, undiluted panic through your system. Is it a bird, or is it him? The snap of a twig in the forest isn't a deer, it's a threat. The rumble of distant thunder isn't the weather, it's the sound of its landing. You've developed a permanent tremor in your hands. You jump at loud noises. You can't stand near a campfire because the smell of smoke makes your stomach lurch. You won. You killed the monster. And in return, you've been rewarded with a lifetime subscription to anxiety and night terrors. The dragon is dead, but the fear it carved into your soul lives in your head now, rent-free, forever. And just as you're kneeling there, gasping for air, your body broken and your mind shattered, the universe decides you haven't been violated enough. Because that's when the dead dragon starts to glow. Oh, you thought it was over. You thought the universe would give you a moment to deal with your shattered ribs and your freshly minted PTSD? That's adorable. No, as you lie there, wheezing in the dirt, the dead dragon's flesh begins to peel away, not like rotting meat, but like burning film. It evaporates in a torrent of brilliant, spectral light that rushes towards you. There's no choice, no opt-out button. The light hits you like a physical blow. A shrieking, high-frequency scream that only you can hear floods your mind, a sound of pure agony and rage. It's the dragon's death cry, and it's now inside your head. You feel a psychic vortex tear open inside your consciousness. a hungry void that begins to pull. You are not absorbing its power. You are being force-fed its very existence. This is your reward, a hostile download of a consciousness thousands of years old, crammed into your fragile human mind in a matter of seconds. You don't just get its strength, you get everything. You get the memories. You feel the phantom sensation of colossal wings on your back, the primal joy of soaring above the clouds. And then you feel the burning, addictive satisfaction of unleashing fire from your own throat. You taste the charred meat of mammoths. You taste the ash of burning villages. You feel the contempt for all the tiny, scurrying things below, the arrogance, the cruelty, the unbridled genocidal rage. It's a flood of psychic shrapnel slicing through your own memories, leaving everything tainted. The light fades, the screaming stops. You're left kneeling in the silence, huddled around a perfectly clean dragon skeleton. But you are not the same. You are not even entirely you anymore. The dragon's soul isn't gone, it's in you. Not as a guest, but as a permanent, greasy residue on your own spirit. A corrupted file in the operating system of your mind. From now on, you are never truly alone. When you feel a flash of anger, is it your own? Or is it the dragon's predatory rage bubbling to the surface? When you look at a city, is that a flicker of admiration, or is it a calculated assessment of its flammability? You have nightmares that aren't yours, filled with faces you've never seen, screaming in a language you shouldn't understand. It's a fundamental violation, a form of psychic malware that can never be uninstalled. You have a monster living in your head, and sometimes you can't tell where its thoughts end and your own begin. Congratulations, you are now a fractured, walking identity crisis with a co-pilot who thinks mass destruction is a perfectly reasonable solution to any problem. And this new, psychologically scrambled you has responsibilities. You have people to see, organizations to run. After all, you're not just some random traumatized adventurer anymore. You're a leader, and it's about to get even more absurd. So you've survived dragons, Draugr, and a hostile takeover of your own mind. What's next on your heroic journey? A promotion. Several, in fact. One day you're a wandering, mentally unstable mercenary, and the next you're looking at an organizational chart where you hold every single leadership position. Let's start your week. On Morndas, you're the harbinger of the companions. This means you wake up at dawn to the smell of wet dog and stale mead. Your job is to mediate disputes between hot-headed young warriors who communicate primarily by punching each other. Your key performance indicators are brokering peace over a brawl and politely declining to go on another suicidal, glorious hunt for a slightly larger-than-average wolf. It's less like being a legendary warrior and more like being a weary camp counselor for a pack of overgrown, perpetually angry teenagers who can turn into werewolves. On Turdas, you have to be in Winterhold. You are now the Archmage. You swap your sweaty armor for some slightly less sweaty robes and spend your day surrounded by academics who look at you with thinly veiled contempt. They've dedicated their entire lives to mastering the arcane arts, and you got the top job because you found a shiny stick in a dungeon. Your main tasks include approving requisitions for soul gems, filling out incident reports for failed experiments that turned an apprentice's hands into cheese, and trying to look like you understand what anyone is talking about. It's a masterclass in imposter syndrome, with the added bonus that if you mess up, you might accidentally tear a hole in reality. Morndas is for the Thieves Guild in Riften. You swap your robes for sneaky leather and spend the evening in a sewer. As Guildmaster, your job is less about daring heists and more about management. You're handling payroll for pickpockets, reviewing profit-loss statements on stolen goods, and listening to Vex and Delvin argue about turf. It's organized crime, but with all the romance stripped away, leaving only the tedious, soul-crushing administration. You're a CEO whose headquarters smells permanently of stagnant water and broken dreams. Oh, and somewhere in between all this, you're also the listener for the Dark Brotherhood, You get to spend your nights huddled in a coffin, listening to a mummified corpse whisper assassination contracts into your ear. Then you have to delegate these hits, ensuring your team of emotionally damaged assassins meets their deadly quotas. You have to remember which secret handshake goes with which clubhouse. Is it silence, my brother, or hail Sithis? Say the wrong one in the wrong place, and you'll end up with a dagger in your back. Your life isn't an adventure anymore, it's a logistical nightmare. You are perpetually late for a meeting. You are constantly changing outfits in a desperate attempt to fit in. You are the most powerful, most respected, and most ridiculously overemployed person in all of Skyrim. And beneath the titles and the power, you are utterly, profoundly exhausted. You are a hero, a scholar, a master thief, and a chief assassin. But more than anything, you are just a stressed-out middle manager, drowning in a sea of responsibilities you never wanted. And after a long week of managing werewolves, mages, thieves, and murderers, what do you dream of? Glory, riches, power. No. You dream of something far more precious and far more unattainable. You're standing on a mountain peak, the wind whipping at your cloak. The sky above is a breathtaking tapestry of purple and green aurora. You've slain gods and monsters. You've altered the course of history. You are the Dragonborn. And all you can think about is the persistent, maddening itch under your armor. This is the ultimate, unglamorous truth that underpins your entire existence. Glory is an abstract concept. Power is a burden. But the misery of the mundane? That is constant. That is real. It begins with the cold, a deep, gnawing cold that the thickest fur can't keep out. It seeps into the cracks in your armor, into the leather of your boots, and settles deep in your bones, a permanent, dull ache that flares up every morning when you crawl out of your bedroll. Then there's the filth. It's a second skin. A grimy, sticky layer of road dust, dried sweat, tomb mold, and the splattered remains of your enemies. It cakes in your hair, under your fingernails, and in every seam of your clothing. You smell. You smell of iron, old leather, and something vaguely foul you can't quite identify. When you walk into a tavern, it's not just your reputation that precedes you, it's your aroma, and the lice. Oh, the lice. They are your most loyal companions, a faithful army living in the padding of your armor and the warmth of your scalp. You can spend an hour by the fire, picking them out one by one, but they always come back. They are an eternal, crawling reminder that no matter how many dragons you kill, you are still just a warm-blooded mammal and a feast for parasites. Your diet consists of whatever you can get: greasy, questionable meat floating in a watery stew, bread so hard it could be used as a weapon, ale that tastes like it was brewed in a rusty bucket. You chew, you swallow, you pay the coins, and you try not to think about the journey it's about to take through your long-suffering digestive system. You'd kill for a fresh vegetable. You'd commit unspeakable acts for a handful of berries that weren't half-eaten by skeevers. So you stand on that mountain, a legend in your own time, and you close your eyes. You ignore the phantom dragon screams in your head, the aching in your scarred-over body, the weight of your 100 leadership roles, and you allow yourself to dream. Not of Sovngarde, not of riches. You dream of a wooden tub, a tub filled with steaming hot water, so hot it stings your skin at first. You dream of sinking into it, the heat chasing away the permanent chill in your bones for the first time in what feels like a lifetime. You dream of soap, of scrubbing away the layers of grime until your skin is raw and clean, of washing the blood and dust and failure out of your hair. It is the most beautiful, most powerful, most unobtainable treasure in all of Skyrim, the simple, forgotten luxury of a hot bath. But it's just a dream. You open your eyes, the wind is still cold. The itch is still there, and a new rumor has reached you from a nearby village. They have a giant problem, and they need a hero. Too bad, they have you instead. Before the world comes back into focus, there is only the itch. It's not a simple thing, not a fleeting irritation of the skin. It is a deep, burrowing sensation, a cold fire that has taken root somewhere beneath your flesh, in the muscle, perhaps even in the bone. You awaken to the bite of cold stone against your back, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and something older, something like forgotten regret. The world is a gray blur of hewn rock and iron bars, a cell. But your attention is not on the prison, it is on the mark. You don't need a mirror to see it. You can feel its shape burned into your consciousness, a dark circle edged with a pale, dying flame. The dark sign. It is not a tattoo, not a scar. Those are things that happen to a body. This feels like it has grown out of you, a corruption blooming from within. It is a hole in the world, ringed with fire, and it has been punched directly through your being. It whispers a single, undeniable truth. Your body is no longer your own. It is a brand, and a brand signifies ownership. But it is not a king or a god who owns you now. It is the curse itself. Your world is defined by this stone box. 4 walls, a ceiling of weeping rock, and a floor slick with a grime that has settled for centuries. This is the undead asylum, a name you don't yet know, but understand in your soul. It is a place for things that are meant to be thrown away. Things like you. Time has no meaning here. Is it day or night? The only light is a weak, indifferent gray that filters down from some unseen grate high above. The only sound is the rhythmic drip, drip, drip of water, a slow, maddening clock counting down to nothing. Sometimes you hear other things, a low moan from a neighboring cell, a sudden frantic scraping of nails against stone that ends as abruptly as it began. These are the sounds of your new countrymen, the forgotten. The world outside this cell has forgotten you, but it is not done with you. One day a sound breaks the monotony. Not a drip, not a moan. It is a thud. The sound of a body limp and heavy, dropped from above, and beside it, the quiet metallic clink of a key. It is not an act of mercy. It is a test, the first tool for the terrible craft you are now apprenticed to. Freedom is a short, dark hallway that smells of death. The first lesson of your new life is delivered not by a teacher, but by a creature of impossible mass and brute force. It falls from the sky and shatters the ground where you stand. There is no thought, no time for strategy. There is only the overwhelming presence of a being whose very existence is an insult to yours. You have a broken sword hilt, a piece of scrap. It has a hammer the size of a tombstone. The fight is not a contest. It is a statement. The impact is not a clean strike. It is a pulping, a crushing, a violent and absolute negation of your physical form. Your bones turn to powder, your vision to a red-black static, and then nothing. For a moment, a brief, blissful moment of peace. Then a pull, a violent, wrenching sensation, as if your soul is being dragged back on a coarse rope through a tunnel of thorns. You have learned the foundational truth of your new existence. Your body can be destroyed, but your suffering cannot. You awaken again, not on the cold floor where you were obliterated, but sitting. You are hunched over a strange pyre, a spiral of bone and ash, with a sword plunged into its center. And from it, a fire burns. It does not crackle or roar. It hums a low, hypnotic song, and its warmth is unlike any you have ever known. It is a deep, penetrating heat that seems to push back not just the physical cold of the asylum, but the deeper chill of your curse. It soaks into your weary muscles, quiets the panic in your chest. This is the first moment of comfort you have known since waking. It feels like solace, a moment of peace. But this fire is a forge. It does not heal you. It rehammers you. It beats your broken form back into a crude shape, still scarred, still bent, but whole enough to be broken again. This warmth is a cage, and its embers are the links of a chain that binds you to a world you can never leave. You have learned the rules of your workshop now. The cell is your starting point. The curse is your nature. The bonfire is your anchor. And death is just the process. You are an object to be broken and remade, over and over, until what? You do not know. There is no grand purpose revealed, no divine voice to guide you. There is only the body of another fallen knight who, with his dying breath, speaks not of gods or glory, but of a simple, mechanical task. 2 bells, one above, one below. It is not a quest, it is a chore. But it is the only direction you have, and so you must go, out of the asylum, into the land of so-called ancient lords. You are not a hero beginning a journey. You are a tool, finally picked up. You stand on the edge of a cliff, the undead asylum a forgotten nightmare behind you. Before you stretches a kingdom steeped in twilight, Lordren. The name echoes in your mind, not a memory, but an instinct. It is a land of impossible architecture, of towers that claw at a sunless sky and bridges that span chasms of pure nothing. The air is cool and thin, carrying the scent of ancient dust and a deep, pervasive dampness, like a crypt that has just been opened. The silence here is different from the asylums. It's not empty, it's watchful. You feel the weight of 1,000 years of decay pressing down on you, a pressure in your ears and on your soul. The dying knight's words are all you have, a flimsy shield against the sheer scale of the world's indifference. 2 bells, one above, in a parish of forgotten gods. One below, in the muck and poison of a blighted swamp. This is your pilgrimage, not for faith, not for salvation, but because it is the first and only instruction you have received in this broken world. The path to the first bell is a brutal lesson in the world's new language. It is a language spoken in the shriek of a hollowed soldier's charge, the heavy, metallic clang of a shield that just barely holds, and the wet, tearing sound of a blade finding your flesh. You learn this language through repetition. You learn the rhythm of a spear thrust by feeling it pierce your gut again and again. You learn the arc of a firebomb by the searing heat that melts your skin. Each death is a word, each revival at the bonfire, a new sentence you are forced to learn. This is not combat as you once knew it. It is a violent, unforgiving form of study. Your mind becomes a catalog of pain. The lunge of that one hollow on the rampart is 3 steps, then a thrust. The gargoyles on the rooftop breathe fire after a specific roar. You are not becoming a warrior. You are becoming a scholar of violence, your body the parchment on which every failed attempt is brutally inscribed. The dark sign on your back burns with each revival, a constant reminder that your education is mandatory and the only graduation is madness. Then you hear it, a sound that cuts through the groans of the hollow and the whisper of the wind, a deep, resonant bong that seems to shake the very foundations of the world. The first bell. You stand in the belfry, your hand on a colossal lever, the vibrations traveling up your arm and into your chest. For a single, fleeting moment, there is a sense of accomplishment. A feeling that borders on pride. You have done something. You have taken a piece of this incoherent world and forced it to make sense, to follow a rule. You have completed the task, but the feeling is hollow. The echo of the bell fades, and the world is just as quiet, just as gray, just as hostile as it was before. The sun does not break through the clouds. No divine voice congratulates you. You have simply rung a bell. It is a task for a servant, not a hero. And the reward for your labor is only the knowledge that your work is half done. Now, you must descend. The journey down is a journey into the planet's guts. You leave the crumbling glory of the parish and descend into the depths, into a place that was never meant to see the sky. The air grows thick, wet, and cloying. The smell of rot is absolute. Down here, the world is not just trying to kill you, it is trying to infect you. Poisonous slimes drip from the ceiling, and creatures with too many eyes and too many teeth scuttle in the darkness. This is not the noble decay of the world above. This is a festering, profane sickness. You trudge through Blighttown, a vertical slum of rotting wood and filth, where the very ground bubbles with poison. Every step is a risk, every shadow a threat. The hope you felt in the belfry is a distant memory, burned away by the acid in your veins and the crushing despair of this place. The mission feels less like a divine quest and more like a cruel joke. To seek a bell in a place like this is an act of pure madness. You find it at the root of a poisoned world, guarded by a creature of chaos and flame. The second bell. Its toll is deeper, more guttural, a sound that seems to come from the belly of the earth. Bong. The task is complete. A great gate grinds open somewhere far away, a new path revealed. You should feel relief, but you do not. You only feel tired, a profound, bone-deep exhaustion that has nothing to do with your muscles. You have rung 2 bells. You have fulfilled the prophecy of a dead man. And what has it cost you? 100 deaths? 1,000? You have lost count. You have learned the intricate dance of survival, but have forgotten the feeling of peace. You have mastered the mechanics of this world, but in doing so, you have allowed its gears to grind away at your own soul. The path forward is now open, leading to Sen's fortress, the domain of the old gods. But as you turn to leave the swamp, you feel a subtle shift, a coldness that the bonfire cannot fully chase away. This burden of purpose is a heavy one, and you are beginning to suspect it is designed not to save you, but to wear you down until nothing is left. The world, for a time, was just a conversation between you and your own suffering. But as you venture further, drawn by the grim momentum of the opened gate, you begin to find others. They are not allies in the traditional sense. They are fellow castaways, huddled around the fleeting warmth of the bonfires, their eyes holding the same weary glint as your own. You meet a man whose face is hidden by a stoic, sun-painted helm. He speaks of a personal quest, a search for his own son, a purpose so magnificently simple it seems insane in this washed-out world. You meet a portly knight, always trapped, always in need of rescue, yet perpetually cheerful, his laughter a strange and fragile sound in the oppressive silence. You find a pyromancer, his robes tattered, who sees the flame not as a tool of destruction, but as a companion, a living thing to be understood and respected. These encounters are like finding brief, sheltered alcoves in a blizzard. You share a glance, a few cryptic words, perhaps an item, a small, almost imperceptible transfer of humanity. For a moment, you are not just a tool. You are a fellow traveler on the same damned road. His name is Solaire. He is the first to offer you genuine, unconditional aid. He calls it jolly cooperation. There is no talk of souls, no transactional logic, just the simple joy of facing the darkness together. When he appears in your world, a shimmering golden phantom, the weight on your shoulders feels fractionally lighter. You face towering demons and grotesque abominations. And for those brief minutes, the loneliness that has been your constant companion recedes. You fight back to back, a silent understanding passing between you. You are 2 souls against the abyss. But even in these moments of camaraderie, there is a terrible, unspoken truth. He is looking for his son, and you are the one walking deeper into the shadows. Every shared victory is a step towards a future where you will inevitably diverge. You are on the same path, but you are not walking to the same destination. This temporary brotherhood is a precious, painful thing, a warmth that reminds you just how cold you truly are. You find Siegmeyer, the knight from Katarina, in the most precarious of situations, stuck before a fortress gate, asleep at the edge of a pit, perched on a ledge overlooking a swamp. His optimism is a shield far stronger than any steel. He thanks you with a booming voice, rewards you generously, and speaks of his own adventures, with a naive bravado. You help him, not out of pity, but because his resilience is a spectacle to behold. He is a walking, talking paradox in this land of despair. But as you progress, you see the cracks begin to form in that cheerful armor. The challenges become too great, his self-reliance a source of shame. He wants to be the hero of his own story, but you are always the one clearing the path. Each time you save him, you are inadvertently chipping away at his purpose. You are his solution, but you are also his failure. The jovial knight is slowly being eroded by the one person trying to help him, and his fading smile becomes a mirror for your own dwindling hope. Laurentius, the pyromancer, sees the fire in your soul. After you rescue him from the butcher's profane kitchen, he offers to teach you his craft. He speaks of the flame with a gentle reverence, a paternal affection. Be careful, he warns. Pyromancy is the art of wielding fire, but it is a fickle thing. In his camp at Firelink Shrine, he becomes a quiet anchor. He asks you where you learned your own strange pyromancies, a simple, friendly question. But your answer, born of the grim necessity of the swamp, is a seed of his own undoing. He sees a power he does not understand, a chaos flame, and his professional curiosity turns into a fatal obsession. He ventures down into that same poisoned mire, seeking the knowledge you carried so casually. The next time you see him, he is no longer your teacher. He is just another hollow, a shambling creature driven by a single, mindless impulse. He attacks you. You must raise your hand against the man who offered you warmth and wisdom. His last lesson is the cruelest of all. In this world, even the most innocent connection can curdle into a weapon that is aimed directly at your heart. They are all falling away. The golden warrior, the cheerful adventurer, the wise teacher. One by one, their purpose either eludes them or consumes them. Their stories end in madness, in despair, or in a quiet, forgotten corner of this dying land. And you are the constant. You are the one who walks on. You carry their faces, their final words, like stones in your pocket. Each of their fates is a prophecy of your own. You are stronger than them, more resilient, more driven. But this strength is a curse. It means you are destined to outlive them all, to be the last one standing in a world of ghosts and echoes. You are forced to watch every spark of light you encounter be extinguished by the same darkness you are wading through. The loneliness returns, heavier than before, because now you know what you have lost. The faint warmth of camaraderie is gone, replaced by the chilling certainty that the only person who can walk this path to the end is you. You have grown powerful. You have consumed the souls of demons and demigods, turned their very essence into your own strength. Your armor is thicker, your blade sharper. You can walk through lands that would have instantly annihilated you before. There is a deadly grace to your movements, a grim economy of motion, born from 1,000 agonizing failures. From the outside, you look like a champion, a hero forged in the crucible of this fallen kingdom. But this strength is a mask. Beneath the layers of steel and hardened leather, the real transformation is taking place. It is a process of subtraction, an unmaking. Every time you are struck down and dragged back to the bonfire, you leave a little piece of yourself behind in the dirt. It is not something you notice at first, a forgotten memory. The face of someone you once knew, now just a blur. The reason you started this journey in the first place, now just a vague, mechanical directive. Ring the bells, find the lords, link the fire. The grand tapestry of your former life is unraveling, thread by thread, until only the stark, gray canvas of the curse remains. The change is not just in your mind, it is in your skin, your bones. Look at your own hands. The flesh is pulling taut against the knuckles, the color draining away until it resembles dried parchment. The dark sign on your back feels less like a brand and more like the epicenter of a creeping rot that is slowly claiming the rest of your body. When you die, you return not as you were, but as something less. A hollow. The word itself is an insult, a perfect description of the emptiness that is hollowing you out from the inside. Your features sharpen into a grotesque parody of a human face, your skin the color of old meat, your eyes vacant, glowing with a faint, mindless light. You become one of them, one of the shambling, moaning creatures you have been cutting down without a second thought. This physical decay is a constant, humiliating reminder of your true nature. You are not a human who is cursed. You are a monster, temporarily granted the illusion of humanity by the souls you consume. Humanity. It is a strange concept in this place. It is not a state of being, but a resource. A soft, black sprite, a wisp of darkness you can find on corpses or earn through violence. You clutch these precious things, these humanities, because they are the only thing that can reverse the process. You crush one in your hand, and a wave of warmth, a phantom memory of what it felt like to be truly alive, washes over you. Your skin regains its color, your features soften. You look human again, but it is a lie, a cosmetic fix. You are papering over the cracks. This act of restoring your humanity is the most profound and desperate act you can perform. It is a conscious choice to fight back against the decay, to insist, against all evidence, that you are still a person. But the resource is finite, and the world is infinitely hostile. Each death, each failure, strips the expensive illusion away, and you are left once more as the desiccated husk you truly are. It becomes a vicious, draining cycle. Fight, die, hollow, consume, restore, repeat. A desperate battle to maintain an appearance for a world that has no one left to see it. The true horror of hollowing is not the loss of your body, but the loss of your mind. This is the fate you see in the eyes of every hollowed soldier, every shambling knight. They are not merely aggressive, they are trapped in a loop. They repeat the last actions of their lives, a mockery of their former purpose. The Balder Knights still guard their posts. The channelers still attempt their dead magic. Their will is gone, replaced by a single, corroded instinct. And you can feel that same instinct gnawing at the edges of your own consciousness. With every death, the world becomes simpler, the mission more absolute. The nuances, the doubts, the fears, they all begin to fade, replaced by a cold, efficient clarity. Go forward. Kill. Gather souls. Link the flame. The complex thoughts of a person are being ground down into the simple imperatives of a machine. You are fighting two wars simultaneously, one against the demons of Lordran, the other against the creeping, comfortable numbness in your own head that whispers how much easier it would be to just let go. This is the central paradox of your existence, the cruelest joke of all. To become strong enough to face the Lords, you must gather countless souls. But the process of gathering those souls, the endless dying, the constant proximity to despair, is what accelerates your hollowing. Every step you take towards fulfilling your destiny is a step that erases the person who began the journey. You are building a godslayer out of the ruins of a human being. The stronger you become as a warrior, the weaker you become as a person. Your growing power and your encroaching emptiness are two sides of the same coin. You are becoming the perfect instrument for the world's salvation, a being of immense strength and singular purpose, precisely because there is almost nothing of you left to get in the way. The craft of survival is nearing its zenith, but the craftsman is being scraped away until only the tool remains. There comes a point where the fear is gone. It doesn't vanish in a blaze of courage or a moment of heroic resolve. It simply erodes. It is ground down by 1,000 deaths, worn smooth by a constant, abrasive stream of failure and resurrection. You stand before a hulking knight in black armor, a creature that once sent waves of panic through your soul, and you feel nothing. There is no adrenaline, no tremor in your hand. There is only a cold, dispassionate calculus. You know his movements. You have cataloged them in the library of your scars. The slow, deliberate wind-up for his overhead swing. the slight dip of his shoulder that precedes his shield bash, the precise number of steps he takes before he lunges. You have seen every page in his book, and you have died to every single one. Now you simply read the text and respond. Your body moves without conscious thought, a dance of perfect, brutal efficiency. A parry, a riposte, a roll. The once terrifying giant falls, and you feel no triumph. You only feel the quiet hum of a machine that has performed its function correctly. Your journey through Lordran is no longer an exploration. It is an act of traversal. The winding, treacherous paths of Sen's fortress, once a death trap of swinging blades and hidden pressure plates, are now just a commute. You move through its halls with the bored confidence of a man walking through his own home in the dark. You know which tiles to avoid, which serpent man to strike first. Aner Londo, the breathtaking city of the gods, is no longer a source of awe. Its majestic vistas are just backdrops for enemy placements. Its infamous archers, who once pinned you down with arrows the size of spears, are now just a problem with a specific, repeatable solution. You have stripped the world of its magic and its menace and reduced it to a series of interconnected mechanics, a set of obstacles to be overcome. The beauty and the horror have been flattened into a single pragmatic map in your mind. This is the mastery you have earned. You have conquered the world not by becoming a part of it, but by rising above it, viewing it with the detached eyes of a strategist moving pieces on a board. This mastery is a lonely, sterile thing. It is a perfection born of trauma. Think of a master carpenter who knows the feel of wood, the bite of a chisel. His skill is born of love for his craft, of a desire to create. Your skill is born of hatred for your enemy, of a desperate need to not be obliterated. His hands are guided by artistry. Yours are guided by muscle memory seared into your nerves by agony. You can perfectly time a parry to within a single frame of an enemy's attack. You can roll through the swing of a dragon's tail with such precision that the wind of its passing barely ruffles your cloak. These are acts of impossible skill, but they bring you no joy. They are the reflexes of a cornered animal that has survived one fight too many. Your body has become the ultimate weapon, honed to a razor's edge. But a weapon does not feel pride. It only knows its purpose. And your purpose is to cut down anything that stands between you and the kiln of the first flame. The souls of the great lords are now yours. Seath the Scaleless, a dragon driven mad by his own research. The four kings who rule a lightless abyss. Nido, the first of the dead, slumbering in a tomb of giants. And the bed of chaos, a being of pure, uncontrolled life. You have faced them all. You have learned their patterns, their weaknesses, their desperate final struggles. You have absorbed their immense power, their very beings now fueling your own. You are a walking vessel of dead gods. The power thrumming within you is immense, a roaring inferno of souls. Yet you feel more hollow than ever. You have achieved what the prophecy demanded. You have gathered the keys to the final door. You have become a being of legendary might, a true successor to the lords of old. But it is an empty inheritance. You have claimed their thrones only to find them cold. This pinnacle of power is the loneliest place in the world, a peak you have reached by methodically destroying every part of yourself that could have appreciated the view. You stand before the final gate. The Lord vessel, now brimming with the power of those you have slain, resonates with the ancient lock. The path to the kiln, the forge of the world, is open. There is no one left to guide you. Solaire has found his son, in madness or in glory. Siegmeyer has met his end, his honor satisfied or shattered. Laurentius is a mindless ghost in the swamp. They are all gone. There is only you, the perfect survivor, the master of the cycle. You have learned every lesson this world could teach, and the cost was everything you were. You are no longer a person on a quest. You are an answer, walking towards a question that was posed an age ago. The only thing left is to step into the fire and see what you were made for. Your long, brutal apprenticeship is over. It is time to perform the final act of your terrible, magnificent craft. The air itself is ash. You step into a world of ghosts, a landscape bleached of all color, rendered in shades of gray and the dying orange of a forgotten fire. This is the kiln of the first flame. It is not a place of roaring, creative heat, but a silent, desolate kiln at the end of its cycle. The very ground is a thick carpet of white ash, the calcified memories of 1,000,000 souls that have burned to sustain this world. Twisted, spectral trees reach like skeletal fingers toward a sky that is nothing but a swirling vortex of embers. With every step, your boots kick up clouds of this final dust. You are walking through the remains of history itself. The air is still, heavy, and ancient. This is the heart of the world, and you find it almost silent, its pulse faint and fading. Here, at the end of all things, you are utterly and completely alone. But you are not. A figure rises from the ash to meet you. He is tall and wears the armor of a great lord, his movements echoing your own with an unnerving familiarity. He wields a great sword that burns with the last vestiges of the first flame. This is Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, the king of this dead kingdom, the god who started it all. He is not the radiant, thunder-wielding deity of the legends. He is a husk, a hollowed god, his mind burned away by 1,000 years of tending the fire. He is what you will become. He is the final, horrifying portrait of a craftsman consumed entirely by his work. He does not speak. He does not reason. He only sees a threat to the fire, the last thing his fractured mind remembers as important. The battle that follows is not a clash of heroes. It is a sad, pathetic struggle. A weary, melancholic piano melody hangs in the air, a funeral dirge for a dying age. You fight not a king, but a desperate prisoner lashing out at his jailer. His movements are powerful but slow, predictable. He is a ghost, and you are the final exorcist. When he falls, there is no grand explosion, no divine release of energy. He simply crumbles, turning to dust and fading into the ashen landscape he guarded for so long. All that is left is his soul, a thing of immense, tired power, and the bonfire, the first flame. It is small, pathetic, a guttering flicker in the overwhelming dark. It sputters and spits, a weak, desperate heartbeat on the verge of giving out. And now, the choice is yours. The final act, the culmination of every death, every struggle, every soul you have consumed. This is your legacy. This is your masterpiece. Two paths diverge in a world of gray, and you are the only one left to walk them. The entire weight of your journey, of all those you have outlived, presses down on you in this final, silent moment. One path is the path of sacrifice. The one you were told was your destiny. You can approach the bonfire, this fading ember, and offer yourself to it. Your body, your will, and the colossal power of all the souls you have gathered. You become the fuel. You link the fire. There will be a moment of unimaginable agony, a supernova of pain as your very essence becomes kindling for a new age. The flame will roar back to life, bright and powerful, pushing back the dark and granting the world a temporary reprieve. The cycle will continue. The gods will have their age of fire a little longer. And you will become the new Gwyn, a mindless, hollowed sentinel, trapped here to guard the flame until another accursed undead, just like you, comes to take your place. It is an act of creation born from the ultimate self-destruction. You build a future for the world by utterly erasing your own. The other path is the path of defiance. You can simply turn your back. You can walk away from the flame, leave it to die its final natural death. The gate you entered through is still open. You can leave the kiln, step out into a world without fire. It will be an age of darkness, an age of man. What that means, no one knows. Perhaps it will be a world of peace, free from the machinations of gods and the curse of the undead. Perhaps it will be an age of profound, terrifying horror, ruled by the creatures of the abyss. It is the great unknown. By choosing this, you claim your own agency for the first and last time. You refuse to be the fuel. You refuse to be the sacrifice. You break the cycle. It is an act of supreme self-preservation, but one that damns the world, or perhaps frees it, to a fate of your making. You have become the most powerful being in existence, and your final act is to refuse the job you were created for. You choose to be a person, not a tool, even if it means the world falls apart. The fire sputters. The ash settles. The choice hangs in the silent air, heavy as a tombstone. What will you build with your life's terrible work? A new prison or a new world? Before a single bullet remade the Mojave wasteland, there was a person. But history does not remember their name. It only remembers their function: Courier. This is not an oversight. It is the very heart of the tragedy. We are conditioned to look for the seeds of greatness in our protagonists, the latent destiny waiting for a call to adventure. But to understand the story of the Courier is to first accept a chilling premise. There was nothing there. No chosen one, no sleeping hero, no figure of prophecy. There was only a blank space, a cog in the brutal machinery of post-apocalyptic survival, whose greatest significance was his own insignificance. This anonymity is not a narrative convenience. It is a diagnosis of the world he inhabited. The Mojave is a landscape of systems, of supply lines, trade routes, and power dynamics. Within these systems, individuals are often rendered fungible, reduced to the role they perform. The Courier was the ultimate expression of this principle. They were human infrastructure, a delivery vector, no more and no less. Their job was not one of glory, but of necessity, a high-risk profession for those with little else to lose. They were a necessary gamble in a world where information and goods were as vital and as vulnerable as life itself. The package they carried held immense value. The person carrying it was, by design, expendable. This professional anonymity bled into a deeper, more personal void. Unlike the vault dweller emerging from a controlled society, or the tribal warrior steeped in ancient tradition, the Courier had no such anchor. They were a ghost long before the gun was fired, an amorphous identity shaped only by the road ahead and the job at hand. There is no evidence of a deep-seated moral code, no grand political conviction, no personal ambition beyond the next cap and the next destination. They were a perfect tabula rasa, a mind defined not by what it contained, but by what it lacked. This emptiness was a survival trait in a world that punished attachment, but it also created a profound vulnerability. A mind without a strong internal structure is a mind waiting to be broken. We must resist the temptation to project heroism onto this void. The Courier was not a stoic wanderer, choosing a life of solitary freedom. They were a functionary, a service provider in a dead world. Their life was a series of transactions, a testament to the grim pragmatism of the wasteland. They were not special. They were not chosen. They were simply the one who happened to be carrying a platinum chip on a day when someone else decided that chip was worth more than a human life. This is the crucial, unsettling truth that sets the stage for the horror to come. The person who walked to that shallow grave outside Goodsprings was not a hero about to be forged in the fires of tribulation. They were a nobody about to be erased. This anonymity, this perfect functional emptiness, was not a shield. It was an invitation. It made him the ideal target for an act of violence that was not merely meant to end a life, but to erase a variable from an equation. But the equation of the wasteland is never so simple. A body can survive what a mind cannot. And what was about to be born in that shallow grave was not a hero, but a symptom. A single gunshot to the head is rarely a clean event. A second is a declaration of intent. This was not a robbery gone wrong. It was a clinical procedure, a crude and brutal form of neurosurgery performed with a 9mm pistol. The goal was not just to kill, but to sever the Courier from his mission, from his memory, from his very self. and in the dim, dusty light of Doc Mitchell's clinic, we are not witnessing a miraculous resurrection. We are witnessing the first moments of a medical case study, the birth of a walking trauma patient. Doc Mitchell's opening dialogue is often mistaken for a game mechanic, a clever way to introduce character creation, but it must be reframed as what it truly is, a desperate, improvised neurological examination. When he says, "I did what I could to patch you up," he is speaking as a physician who has just faced a catastrophic injury with pre-war tools and dwindling supplies. He is assessing the damage, searching for the person who used to be inside the skull he has just reconstructed. Every question he asks is a diagnostic tool. The SPE-IAL machine is not a game of stats. It is a cognitive and motor skills assessment. Strength, perception, endurance, these are measurements of physical impairment. Charisma, intelligence, agility, these are gauges for brain function, for social cognition, for coordination. The Courier's base stats are, in reality, a medical chart of his deficits. The psychological evaluation is even more direct. "Let's see what the old noodle is like," Mitchell says, holding up a Rorschach test. In this moment, the subtext becomes text. This is a literal attempt to probe the depths of a shattered psyche. The patient's interpretations of the ink blots are not flavor text. They are windows into a mind unmoored from its foundations. And then comes the most critical question, disguised as a polite formality. "I can't seem to find a name on you anywhere." This is the test for amnesia, the confirmation that the severance was successful. The bullets did not just wound the body, they hollowed out the mind, leaving behind a profound and terrifying void. The courier who wakes up is not the same person who was shot. That person is, for all intents and purposes, gone. What remains is something new and deeply unstable. Traumatic brain injury, especially to the frontal lobes, does not just erase memories. It dismantles the core functions that constitute a personality. The frontal lobe is the seat of judgment, of impulse control, of emotional regulation, of the ability to plan and foresee consequences. The violence inflicted upon the courier was a direct assault on the very architecture of his humanity. The being that now stands in Doc Mitchell's office is operating on damaged hardware. Their freedom to be anyone is, in fact, a symptom of their inability to be the person they once were. They are a blank slate, not by choice, but by catastrophic injury. The final act of this diagnosis is the courier looking into a mirror. The player sees a character creation screen. The character sees a stranger, a face with a brutal scar bisecting it, a physical manifestation of the psychological rupture within. This is not a moment of rebirth, but an introduction to a new, horrifying reality. They are a ghost in their own body, a collection of damaged impulses and fragmented memories, about to be released into a world that will show no mercy to the weak or the confused. Doc Mitchell, in his kindness, has saved a life, but he has unknowingly unleashed a neurological anomaly upon the Mojave. The first steps out into the blinding sun of Goodsprings are not the beginning of an adventure. They are the actions of a patient, discharged from the ward but not from their condition, walking into a world for which their damaged brain is tragically unprepared. The hunt for answers has begun, but this is not a quest for justice. It is the confused, desperate searching of a mind trying to understand its own malfunction. Freedom in the Mojave wasteland is a seductive illusion. We see the courier's journey as a testament to player choice, a narrative that bends to every whim. But view it through a clinical lens, and this freedom warps into a terrifying portrait of pathology. The man or woman walking out of Goodsprings is not a free agent. They are a case study in frontal lobe damage, and their every action is a symptom of a mind that can no longer regulate itself. Their hero's journey is, in fact, a chaotic, aimless wandering dictated by the whims of a broken brain. Consider the core gameplay loop. A stranger offers a dangerous job for a handful of caps, and the courier accepts without question. This is not the behavior of a rational actor weighing risk and reward. It is a textbook example of impaired judgment and poor impulse control, hallmarks of a traumatic brain injury. A healthy mind would question the wisdom of clearing out geckos, confronting powder gangers, or marching into a radioactive vault for a stranger. The Courier's mind, stripped of its executive functions, cannot. It operates on a simple, reactive loop: stimulus, response. A quest marker appears on a map, and they follow, driven by a primal need for structure in a world their injury has rendered incomprehensible. This impulsivity is often misread as bravery or altruism. But watch how it manifests. The Courier can save a town one moment and engage in a violent, senseless act the next. These are not the calculated decisions of a shifting moral compass. They are the violent swings of emotional dysregulation. The brain's ability to moderate mood and behavior has been compromised. The capacity for empathy exists alongside a terrifying potential for unprovoked aggression, both held on a neurological hair trigger. The karma system is not a reflection of a soul, but a fluctuating chart of a mind at war with its own damaged chemistry. Then there is the pathological fixation. The image of a man in a checkered suit becomes the single organizing principle in a sea of cognitive chaos. The quest to find Benny is not a righteous hunt for vengeance, for the Courier cannot truly remember the self that was wronged. It is a form of perseveration, the uncontrollable repetition of a particular response or behavior. The brain, unable to process the complexity of its trauma, latches on to the last clear memory before the event, the face of the attacker. This fixation provides a singular, desperate purpose. It is not a path to justice, but a neurological obsession, a frantic attempt to find an anchor in the storm of amnesia. Every step toward New Vegas is a step deeper into this compulsion, the symptom masquerading as a motive. Even the seemingly mundane act of collecting every piece of scrap, every carton of cigarettes, every bent tin can be viewed through this lens. This is not just a player hoarding resources. It is a behavioral disorder. It mirrors the compulsive hoarding seen in patients with severe brain injuries, an attempt to impose order and control on an environment that feels overwhelmingly chaotic. Each item collected is a small, tangible piece of a world that no longer makes sense. The Pip-Boy, with its neat lists of quests and inventory, becomes a vital external cognitive aid, a substitute for the internal organizational structures the Courier's brain has lost. This is the grim reality of the Courier's early journey. It is not a story of empowerment. It is the tragedy of a disabled individual, navigating a hostile world with the very tools of navigation shattered. Every choice celebrated as freedom is a symptom of their confinement within a prison of damaged neurons. And as they stumble through the desert, driven by impulses they don't understand, they are unknowingly drawing the attention of powers who see not a patient, but a perfectly malleable weapon. In the brutal ecosystem of the Mojave, a vulnerability is not a weakness to be pitied, but an opportunity to be exploited. When the Courier, a walking collection of neurological symptoms, finally retrieves the platinum chip, they do not step onto a political stage as a new player. They stumble into an arena of predators, each one seeing not a person, but an asset. The great powers of the wasteland, the new California Republic, Caesar's Legion, and the enigmatic Mr. House, are about to engage in the systematic and ruthless weaponization of a disabled individual. Mr. House is the first to recognize the potential. His initial interactions with the Courier are framed as a business proposal, an offer of employment. But look closer. He is speaking to a person whose memory is a void, whose personality is a construct of recent trauma. House, a being of pure, disembodied logic, does not see a partner. He sees a perfect instrument. The Courier has no pre-existing loyalties, no deep-seated ideology to overcome. They are a blank slate, and House intends to write his own commands upon it. He offers caps, upgrades, and a place in his grand design, appealing directly to the Courier's simplistic stimulus-response worldview. He is not recruiting an ally. He is programming a tool. The new California Republic represents a more insidious form of exploitation. They cloak their manipulation in the language of civic duty, shared values, and the greater good. Ambassador Crocker and General Oliver approach the Courier with offers of pardons, rank, and responsibility. They appeal to a sense of belonging, a desire for structure that the Courier's shattered mind desperately craves. They see the Courier's incredible capabilities, but willfully ignore the glaring red flags of their erratic behavior. To them, the Courier is a wild card, a powerful but unpredictable force that must be pointed in the right direction. They are not fostering a hero of the Republic. They are grooming a patient, leveraging their suggestibility and lack of a core identity to turn them into an agent of state policy. They are, in effect, giving a loaded gun to a man they know is unwell because he is pointing it at their enemies. Then there is the Legion. Caesar's approach is the most primal and, perhaps, the most honest in its predatory nature. He does not hide his intentions behind bureaucracy or technological promises. He sees the Courier's capacity for violence, their singular obsessive focus, and recognizes it as a twisted form of strength. Caesar, a master of breaking and remaking men, sees in the Courier a mind already broken, ready to be remade in his own image. He offers not freedom, but purpose. He offers a simple, brutal ideology that can fill the void of the Courier's amnesia. For a mind struggling with the chaos of a TBI, the rigid black-and-white worldview of the Legion can be a seductive relief. Caesar is not offering an alliance. He is offering a diagnosis and a cure, a new identity forged in blood and iron to replace the one that was stolen. In every one of these interactions, the Courier is not a kingmaker choosing a side. They are a patient being presented with different forms of treatment for their condition. House offers a cybernetic cage. The NCR offers a uniform and a chain of command. The Legion offers a new, brutal dogma. Each faction projects its own desires onto the Courier, imprinting their ideology onto a mind that, due to its injury, is tragically incapable of forming its own. They are all, in their own way, continuing the work that Benny started with his pistol. They are not liberating the Courier. They are fighting over who gets to colonize the empty space in their skull. The Courier's rise to prominence is therefore not a story of empowerment. It is the story of a medical anomaly being passed from one handler to another. The most powerful person in the Mojave is also the most vulnerable, their decisions shaped not by wisdom or conviction, but by the subtle and overt manipulations of those who see their disability as the ultimate political tool. The path to Hoover Dam is being paved, but the Courier is not the one driving. They are merely the vehicle, and the hands on the wheel are not their own. A single decision can define a lifetime. But what if that decision is not the product of reflection, experience, or moral reasoning? What if it is the final convulsive symptom of a catastrophic injury? The Second Battle of Hoover Dam is not merely the climax of a war for territory. It is the moment a neurological condition becomes historical fact. It is the point of no return, where the fluid, unpredictable behavior of a trauma patient solidifies into a permanent, unchangeable identity, an identity that will be etched into the memory of the Mojave with fire and blood. As the Courier stands on the precipice of this final conflict, they are faced with a choice that will determine the fate of millions. But the mind making this choice is not a healthy one. It is a mind that has been manipulated, programmed, and pushed to its limits by competing factions. The decision of who to support, the NCR's flawed democracy, Caesar's brutal order, Mr. House's cold autocracy, or the chaotic freedom of an independent Vegas, is not a philosophical one. It is the end result of a long chain of pathological reinforcement. Whichever path the Courier has been led down, whichever stimulus has proven most compelling to their damaged brain, now becomes their unshakable reality. This is the moment the neurological scar tissue hardens. Throughout their journey, the Courier's personality has been in flux. a chaotic storm of impulses. But the immense pressure and singular focus of the battle for the dam force a final, irreversible crystallization. The brain, incapable of sustaining such cognitive dissonance, creates a permanent, rigid pathway out of the chaos. If they side with the NCR, it is not out of a belief in democracy, but because that command structure has become the most dominant external force organizing their thoughts. If they bow to Caesar, it is because his simple, brutal dogma has successfully overwritten all other programming. If they serve House, it is because his logic has become their own. And if they choose independence, it is the ultimate expression of their pathology, a final, catastrophic rejection of all external systems, a mind embracing its own internal chaos as the new law of the land. This is the point where the patient is lost forever. The possibility of healing, of rediscovering the person who was shot in the head, is extinguished in the fires of battle. The being that emerges from the conflict is no longer a patient. They are the diagnosis, personified. The monster, a term used here not necessarily for evil, but for a being defined entirely and irrevocably by its trauma, is born. They become the tyrant of New Vegas, the sentinel of the NCR, the legate of Caesar, or the anarchist king. These are not titles. They are case file summaries. The choice, once made, is absolute, because the mind that made it can no longer conceive of an alternative. It has locked itself into a single pathological identity. The violence at Hoover Dam is therefore a reflection of the violence within the Courier's own skull. The battle for control of the Mojave mirrors the battle for control of their own mind, a battle that was lost long ago. The Courier's final actions are not an expression of free will. They are the grand, tragic, and irreversible symptom of their condition. They have become a walking, talking monument to their own injury, and now, that monument will cast a long, dark shadow over the entire wasteland. The dust settles over Hoover Dam, and a victor is declared. But what has truly triumphed is not an army or an ideology. It is a brain injury. The future of the Mojave has been decided by the random, unpredictable firing of damaged synapses, and there is no going back. The ghost in the machine has finally and permanently taken control. History is written by the victors. But the history of the post-war Mojave was written by a ghost. It was shaped not by a visionary leader, a brilliant strategist, or a moral paragon, but by the echo of a gunshot, by the chaotic impulses of a mind irrevocably broken. The legacy of the Courier is the ultimate wasteland paradox. The most influential figure in the region's modern history was, in a clinical sense, not truly there at all. Their story is not a hero's tale, but a terrifying cautionary fable about how a single act of violence can ripple outward to define a civilization. The final slides detailing the fate of the Mojave are not a record of triumph or failure. They are a damage report. Every outcome, from the fate of Goodsprings to the new flag flying over the Hoover Dam, is a direct consequence of a decision made by a neurologically impaired individual. A town thrives or withers, a faction rules or is annihilated, a companion finds peace, or a miserable end, all based on the whims of a person whose judgment was fundamentally compromised. The Mojave's new world order was built on a foundation of pathological fixation, emotional dysregulation, and impaired impulse control. It is a society born from a symptom. If the Courier brought a kind of order to the wasteland, it was the order of a compulsive mind trying to arrange a chaotic world to soothe its own internal turmoil. If they brought freedom, it was the anarchic freedom of a brain untethered from consequence and social contract. If they became a tyrant, they were an accidental one, a patient who was handed a crown and scepter by those who saw their disability not as a tragedy, but as a tool. Their rule is not the product of ambition, but the final, logical endpoint of their condition. The person who was a blank slate became the canvas upon which the Mojave's future was painted, and the artist was a brain injury. This is the ultimate horror of the Courier's story. It deconstructs our most cherished myths about destiny and the power of the individual. It suggests that history does not always bend to the will of great men, but can be permanently derailed by a random act of brutality. The Courier was not a chosen one. They were a statistical anomaly, a patient who should have died in a shallow grave, but instead survived to become a force of nature. Their journey shows us a world where free will is an illusion, where the self is a fragile construct that can be shattered by a piece of lead, and where the fate of thousands can rest on the damaged synapses of a single, unlucky mailman. Look at the scar on their forehead, the one they see in the mirror at the story's end. It is more than a mark of survival. It is a signature. It is the physical evidence of the wound that dictated every choice, every alliance, every act of violence, and every fleeting moment of grace. That scar on their face is a perfect mirror to the scar they carved across the face of the Mojave wasteland. The ghost who walked out of Goodsprings, the patient who was never cured, did not just find the man who shot him. He inherited the world, leaving behind a legacy not of will, but of trauma, a permanent, chilling reminder that sometimes the future is not chosen, but simply inflicted.